Hello, and welcome to this week's Cafecito break. I'm Valerie Zolezzi-Wyndham, a United Latinas board member, and I have been looking forward to this conversation and being in community with you all since my very early morning cafecito today. I want to start by acknowledging that we, our hermanos, our hermanas, are experiencing a difficult time for many reasons, and I hope that you are pausing and remembering to breathe. I'm reminding myself of that a few times every day, to find joy where you can and to be in community. And that's one of the reasons why I was so looking forward to this conversation, because things are challenging and taking care of ourselves is really, really important. You are going to be able to chat with us if you are listening live, and so feel free to put a question or comments into the chat, and I'll bring those into the conversation. I am going to breathe one more time and share that I'm so excited to be here with Tanya Christina Flores. She is a part of our United Latinos Chicago community and a successful realtor. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. This is something that I'm very passionate. Aside from having been in real estate for 10 years, over 10 years, having been a landlord, and most recently, because this has been new for you, this is Endurance Athlete Journey, started about 3 years ago, and I'll share a little bit more about that. Tuned out here. I'm back.
Oh, there we go. You're back.
Aside from, having gone into the fitness space about 3 years ago, it's something that's brought me a lot of passion and joy, and it can definitely help fill your cup in times where frustration can be easy and anger can be easy.
Thank you, Tanya Christina. So tell me, and just Tanya Christina is calling in from her phone, and so we're just going to ask you to, stick with us, and if there's a little bit of coming in and out. So we are going to talk about can you hear me, Tanya? I just want to confirm your... Tanya, can you hear me? I just want to make sure you're still with us.
For some reason, Valerie, I'm not hearing you. I know we had done the test before, but I am not hearing you. I'm not sure if you're able to hear me. Maybe I need to.
I can hear you.
Come back in.
I hear you, but I hear your computer.
Do that. See if I leave and come back.
Okay. So let's give Tanya a minute to come back. And in the meantime, if we have anybody who is live, would love to have you share any things that you would like us to talk about. We're going to be talking about a fabulous title, which is, how to feel sexy and strong. And so we welcome any of your questions or suggestions. And here she is. There we go. Welcome back.
Thank you. Technology.
Yes, no worries, no worries. So this is a conversation. I love the title that you shared with us, how to get sexy and strong. And before I get to your 3 questions, I'd love to hear, 2 more sentences about why this is so important to you personally, outside of your work.
Absolutely. So for a lot of time, I was definitely not loving myself. I was in a marriage that crumbled in 2015. My partner had a stroke, right? And I didn't realize sometimes we get into these relationships not knowing what parts of yourself you need to heal. So I have been on a journey back to self-love, to even identifying that there were moments in time where I was not loving myself. So fitness was that opportunity to return to myself, to do something for myself, to love myself.
Thank you, Tanya Christina. That's so brave of you to share And I hear in that an invitation for me and for others listening to ask ourselves that question. Am I Valerie loving myself right now? It's such an important question. And we can end up in that place where we aren't without even knowing it, and sit in that place for too long. So tell me about why some succeed at staying fit and why others don't.
Absolutely. You get into a diet, right? A lot of us get into a diet. I used to do a lot of dieting for fitness. There was times where I was weighing like 150, right? After you join college, you gain what the freshman 15 or so you're just going, you're like, okay, I'm going to lose that weight. So now I'm going to start to eat healthier. So it's always about reorganizing your habits. And that's why we fail, because we don't commit to an identity. So when we have an identity shift, now our habits align with who we decide to be as a person. And for me, it was such a huge eye opener. So I had invested in a coaching program before I made this shift. I was ready to do it because I already knew, Valerie, and for those of you listening, I have these goals, but what's going on with my energy? My energy was low. So I was not performing to the aspirations that I had. And when I joined this coaching group, I ended up in a mastermind. And how fortunate was I? You don't have to be in a mastermind. You're here in this session for a reason. In this mastermind, I was an Olympic athlete. And as we were sharing, having conversation around our goals, he gave me a gift. And he said, Tanya, you are an athlete. He gave me the possibility of an identity that I never saw for myself. I don't come from a family of athletes. When he said, I am an athlete, I'm like, yes, I am an athlete. I adopted that identity. So when you think about your fitness journey, what identity is that? Are you a fit mom? Are you an athlete? Are you ready to adopt that? You can adopt that in this moment and say, you know what? I'm an athlete. It doesn't mean that you're going to look like an athlete right away, but it's going to be that you're going to show up as an athlete. So when I would go to the Starbucks before I was an athlete, I would order the chocolate brownie, the loaded sugar lattes, right? We get them. No judgment if you currently do that. But when I got to that line, I said, what does an athlete order off this menu? Oh, they would probably order the egg bites. They'd order the tea, the not so sugar loaded. So those small decisions started to compound. And I started to show up at the gym as an athlete, the athlete that started with 5 minutes. That was a game changer. So just adopting that identity is what's going to make sure that it sticks. So I'm 3 years in. I'm not going back to the non-athlete because that's now part of my identity.
I love that. And this is such powerful advice, not only about fitness, but other parts of our lives. If you are struggling professionally or even with your entrepreneurial hat on, really thinking about what is the identity that you want to carry for yourself, it'll help you move forward in those others in those other ways as well. I want to ask a follow-up question. When he said athlete and you started to see yourself in that way, I don't want you to describe yourself physically, but like, who's the athlete that you thought of, right? That you would want to be?
Oh, I love that question. I think for myself, I thought about what I wanted to do. I always said, oh, I want to bike ride. Like I want to get into biking, right? I remember it was so hard to even like bike 20 minutes. Like I thought that was like exhausting. So funny story. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what am I going to do? So here I am. I'm adopting the athlete mentality. I started going on this Echelon bike, Peloton bikes, right? That they had at the gym. And for some reason, I got this ad. I think it might have been YouTube. And it said, race Hincapie, Chattanooga, Tennessee. It looked pretty enough in the mountains, right? From not being an athlete, right? I like to go for the big. So I registered for a 50-mile cycling race without having a bike. And I'm like, I'm going to do this race because I'm an athlete. And that was what got me on the plan to commit to race, to embrace the fact that, what do athletes enjoy? They enjoy the challenge. They enjoy pushing themselves outside of the comfort zone.
I love that. I love that. And are you still biking today? Is that still a thing you do?
You know, the beautiful thing about being an athlete is that you can be cross-discipline and you can end up with other things. So here's a funny story. So I did that. I did 100 century, I did 100 miles century bike race. And then one day I'm going to my local coffee shop in Pilsen, Coffee Jumping Bean. If you're ever there, stop by. And the person there's like, hey, Tanya, we've got this group. They run. It'll be a great opportunity for you to meet more people, right? I'm in real estate, so networking is a huge part of it. Yeah. And I show up at this running group having not run. And my mind is saying, right, because what happens, you're going to get resistance. Right now, you're like, oh, I want to be fit. But then your resistance is going to kick in. You're like, oh, I can't. I'm too busy with the kids. Or there's going to be all the reasons why oh, no, I don't cycle. I don't run or whatever it is. So my head was saying, I'm not a runner. I've cycled, but I'm not a runner. But then I listened to that other part of my head that said, I love challenges, right? And so I showed up. I ran my first 5 miles, and I ended up falling that day, by the way. I was the last one, and I fell, but I kept going.
Thank you. I love that. So what is we're all going to have those moments where that other voice comes in that starts to question whether you are that thing. And so do you have a practical tip for how we can catch ourselves?
Yeah, so there's a couple of practical tips. One of the practical tips is to write down affirmations. It's not hocus pocus. It's really reaffirming your identity. So one of the ones I have, I am sexy and strong. I didn't see myself as that. And I'll share a little bit story around that, and the resistance that can happen around you turning your fitness journey around. The other thing is, set your clothes up, right? Atomic Habits is a fantastic book. So you've got to reduce friction. They talk about reducing friction. So what can you do to be like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym? Set your clothes up the day before. Set up your water bottle. Have things that would have you cause less resistance. And don't overthink it or overplan like, oh, I got to be there an hour. If you only have 5 minutes, go there for 5 minutes. The key is that you're consistently showing up and adopting the habit.
I love that. Thank you. And I love the book Atomic Habits. I think his work is beautiful, and it's such an easy book to follow. So definitely well worth it. So how does you shared already a little bit about how you started your fitness journey. What is your advice for others? How can somebody who is ready to do it, how do they get started?
Yeah, I would just show up, and whether it's going to the gym, don't overthink it. Maybe it's just going outside for a walk. I would recommend also listening. Podcasts help me a lot. I will tell you, I listen to a lot of David Goggins, and he's all like hardcore mentality, show up when you don't want to, who's going to carry the boats. Like, have people in your ear that are going to be in your ear so that you can start adopting a new way of thinking. What else? Don't wait for a friend. If you call your friend, the friend doesn't want to go work out, because then that becomes another excuse. So you want to remove any friction. Just show up, and don't wait for tomorrow. Why not do it today? Your kids go to sleep, go 9 o'clock. Like yesterday I was running, it was probably 10 o'clock at night. I know that's kind of crazy, but I'm like, I wanted to get my mileage. And yes, running in the cold in Chicago, the colder the better. But I didn't start off like that. I started off on the treadmill. Like, a mile was hard. It was like so hard, but I'm like, okay, I'll stop, breathe, try again, go again.
Yeah.
I will say, Valerie, and whoever's listening, I started by loving myself. I knew I had made many decisions that caused me to gain all that weight, the 40 pounds more than I have today. And how was I going to expect to lose that like in 1 week or 2 weeks? Like, I had to give myself grace. And I would tell myself, Tanya, I love you. You're beautiful. Like, affirming parts of myself. My eyes were beautiful. My smile was beautiful. Affirm yourself before you actually drop the weight. And then you show up seeing yourself as the person that you want to become, because you're already beautiful. You might have made some decisions that caused you to gain some extra weight, but you're going to get that off, and you're going to be even better for it after.
I mean, I think the self-love is really, really important. Really, really important. And, as a woman who is now in menopause, I also think that, fitness, or, sort of, you can be fit and you can be sexy at lots of different sizes, right? So um, and we all have different kinds of bodies. And so there isn't one way that we are going to be where we want to be. But we have to start by loving ourselves, and then figuring out, what is that goal going to be for us, and how are we going to be comfortable in our bodies. And so I wonder, like, I sort of name that because I also want to be sensitive to, right, that people have different bodies and different experiences, and there isn't one way that we should look. And so how do you, when you are talking to people about this, how do you talk to people who are in a different place and who maybe have different expectations or different goals around what it means for them to be sexy and strong?
Yeah, I would. So, two things. One, be aware of where your resistance is coming from. Because on one part, you have the desire, otherwise, you would not be listening to this. There is a desire for you to become a fitter version of yourself, whatever that looks like. It's not a societal expectation. It's not, a picture perfect, Women's Health magazine picture, whatever it's whatever that looks like to you, but there's resistance. So I'm going to share something personal that I don't usually share, but it was something I became self-aware of. So yes, I had gone on diets prior to becoming an athlete, but for a very long time, I resisted looking great or looking sexy and strong. That's part of the reason why I included this title. And I
Oh.
realized that it stems to a situation in my childhood. So I'm going to go a little deeper here. Go a little deeper here. So someone that I knew, we were, as a child, someone said, I'm going to take you to this person's house. And this person edited me taking to their house. This was a man, an older man, and I was a child. And proceeded to not respecting me, right? Fortunately, it didn't come to a situation of, deeper abuse, but it was still abuse and me as a child. So I became aware that I resisted. I did not want to get beautiful because I didn't want to attract attention. I was okay with just being average and attracting attention. And when I fully acknowledged that, I said, you know what, God, I'm okay. I'm ready to, I want to look beautiful for me. I'm not going to have this situation hold me back. And I want to preface here that if this is something that comes up for you, for a reason, we have therapists, we have people that we can, dig deeper and support this. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to attract attention, which I have, as I've gotten fitter, like, I get compliments. I sometimes get attention that necessarily I'm not, wanting in the way that I'm wanting, right? I've also appreciated that now I have the opportunity to navigate those situations. I even enrolled in improv classes. And when I get this attention, I'm able to use this improv skill to, navigate the attention that I don't want. And I've learned to set boundaries as a result of it. So be aware of where the resistance is coming from, whether it's something like that, or maybe patterns you've seen in your family where they don't take care of themselves. And then own up to the fact that what you want is coming up for you because you have a desire for it and because it's possible for you. So
Yeah.
maybe you don't do this alone. Maybe you get a personal trainer. Maybe you hire a nutrition coach. Maybe there's some opportunities there, right? And you put it alongside with prayer to move forward and make sure you turn your life around and get it to where you want to be fit.
Yeah. Thank you, Tanya, Christina, for sharing your story and the experience that you had as a child. And I'm glad it didn't turn into something worse, but it still created trauma for you that you held, that created another one of those pieces of friction that was stopping you from achieving this goal that you had. It is so important for us to be aware of the trauma that we carry so that we can manage it, and getting help is really important, whether that's therapy or other types of coaching. So important. And I think we also, one of the things that I've been working a lot on as I've been experiencing menopause is that and it's something I also had experience after I had my children, right? Our bodies change. And so we have to learn to understand how our bodies change, what hormones do to our bodies. And so we're like, well, what does that mean now in terms of what it means to use your language? And so what do I have to do now if I'm going to be an athlete, given how my body has changed? And so how can we do that with self-love and not to see it as a failure, right? But how we go changing. And it's a little bit like, I feel like it's a little bit like what you talked about. You had started biking, that's great. And then the running was scary to you. And you could have gotten stuck there, but you stopped yourself, right? You caught yourself so that you could sort of reimagine that definition of yourself as an athlete. And I think there's periods in our lives where we have to make those pivots. And that brings me to my last question, which is this consistency piece. And so how do you stay consistent when things happen? Whether it's that something changes in your life or in your body or in your profession. How do you keep it going?
Yeah, I would say grace and releasing the idea of perfection. Sure, we have athletes that train as Olympians, right? There's a set, uh, 3 workouts a day, and they have meal plans. Or even if you're not at that level, maybe it's like 8 miles a day running, but you're like, I'm a mom, right? And I'm a wife, and I'm also a worker. So if today you didn't work out in the morning, you give yourself grace, and maybe you work out at night, or just and you continue. I've had those days. I'm not working out 6-7 days a week every week. Sometimes I am, but not all the time. And then like one of those days, and I know I can go ahead and run at night, and tomorrow I can run again in the morning. So grace, a lot of grace. And I love what you mentioned, Valerie, around recognizing where you are, in, like, if you're in menopause or certain stages or whatever it is. Sometimes we go through body changes or illnesses, right? So maybe you want to do this type of workout, but maybe you don't do that one.
Right.
I heard from an athlete run 8, but then I realized I could be flexible, and then I started doing yoga, and I could do that in place. I didn't have to run from place to place, and you still got that physical growth and change. So explore with different type of fitnesses, and allow yourself to lean into that curiosity and have fun with fitness. There's no one way Zumba or Pilates, or there's so many forms of movement. The key is to keep moving and to continue loving yourself.
I love it. Thank you for that. And we've lost you on video for some reason, but I can still hear your voice. Such good advice about how we can take care of ourselves physically. Also, as I've been listening, a lot of this is also not only about our physical health, but also our mental health. And your messages about self-love are so important. So we're going to close. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. You're definitely giving me a lot to think about. We're here every Wednesday, so join us next week. You can find us at United Latinas on all social media feeds. Tanya, Christina, what do you want to share so that people can find you?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn, I am Tanya Christina, Tanya. As you can see, the name Christina. LinkedIn or Instagram, those are great places to connect with me. And remember to stay plugged in. Message me. Community is important for anything. Like the United Latinas community is such a beautiful community, and same thing for fitness. Make sure you stay plugged into community.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to meeting you, I hope, sometime soon.
Thank you, Valerie. Bye.